I've always wondered to myself, is there something that helps the entrepreneurs that succeed that they have which other entrepreneurs don't? Is it something they know? Is it how they run their businesses? Is it the people they hire? Is it where they went to school? Is it their socialization, their background, their education, their mental spaces? What is it that makes the entrepreneur succeed? Welcome to my masterclasses, where I share with you everything you need to know about how to become a high-growth, high-scale entrepreneur. I'm joined by guests. We break down the myths, the ideas, the myths, the legends, everything you need to know to become a high-growth entrepreneur. Warning, this is the High Performance Zone.
Okay.
There are 3 rules to every single masterclass, and I think let's get those rules straight out of the game so that we can get started. Rule number 1, leave our egos at the door. So amongst us here are people with great levels of education, some with none. Amongst us here are people with a lot of money, some with none. Amongst us here are people, some of you here come from very wealthy families with very connected family members. You have some sort of education, or you've built an amazing startup, or you went to a saint somewhere school, or an old something. Excuse my language, nobody gives a fuck. Like, get your head out of your own ass and join us human beings on this little rock called planet Earth. Okay? None of us care. You're just a human being with a name, and we're all going to have an experience. The exchange I look for is that I'm actually looking to learn as much as I'm hoping to give. So I'm hoping that in the conversations and in the discourses, you're going to teach me a few things that I'm not aware of. Is that fair? This space only works if in the room we have what I like to call a low center of gravity. That means there are no titles, we're all equal. I'm not presenting a show, I'm facilitating a discussion. Right? Guys, and the reason that's important is because you can't learn if you're putting on the mask of society. So first rule, we leave our egos at the door. Rule number 2, no such thing as a stupid question. If you're thinking it, somebody else in this room is thinking exactly the same thing. So have the courage to put up your hand and ask the question. In my years of doing this, one of the things I've learned is you're typically sitting there and you've got a question and you're just not quite sure how to ask it. We're going to try and make as much time as possible as we go for you to ask as many questions as we like. This is a masterclass. It's not a keynote. So I'm not here to deliver a speech. We're here to have a conversation. And then the third rule for me is probably the most important. Have fun. Is that okay? Okay, so the whole idea here is we're going to try and have some fun. Good. By the way, before we start, how many of us here are business school students? So you're studying commerce, accounting, one of those things. My deepest sympathies. How many of you here are studying humanities? Arts, dramatic arts, humanities. You guys are the future of the world, by the way. True story, and I'll tell you why. Because we can teach machines to do everything except be creative. How many of us here are entrepreneurs, run our own businesses as we speak? Nah, wait, put your hand down. Actually run your own business. Not have one in your mind, not you're thinking about it. You actually run your own business. Okay, so we have a few crazy people. You dumb idiots, you. You live in a country that I don't know if you guys know this, but South Africa criminalizes entrepreneurship. In this country, being an entrepreneur is equal to having a criminal record. True story, I'll prove it to you. What's the first thing a person with a criminal record can't do? Get a job. What's the second thing they can't do? Apply for a loan and get credit. Yeah. You ever try to get credit from a bank running your own business? Yeah. So to the entrepreneurs in the room, you have my deepest sympathies. How many of us in this room have ideas in our minds? Like an idea, something I want to do, I'm thinking about it. All the ideas people, stand up. Now, for those of us who are sitting down, I want you to look at all the ideas people. with scorn and shame and disgust as the filth that they are. Ideas, people. When you leave here, I want you to remember one thing. Like Usain Bolt, shut up and get out of the starting blocks. Okay? Ideas, guys. Stop talking about it. Stop emailing about it. Stop writing business plans about it. Stop creating websites for stuff that's not there. Shut up and do it. Yes. Okay. Wait, keep standing, keep standing. Keep standing. I didn't say you can sit yet. Now, to all the ideas people, I want you to find the person next to you. The person to your left. And if the person next to your left is an ideas person, then look for the other person to the left. I want you to grab that person by the shoulder, tight, and shrug. You see this white mlung? I want you to grab him. Because he still has the lead. Grab him now. Grab him now. Okay. And then once you've grabbed them, I want you to look them in the eyes. Look deep into their eyes. Deep. And here is what I want you to say. I want you to look deep into their eyes. Then, with a very calm measure of voice, right, and a very sophisticated tone, I want you to say this. I promise that after this masterclass, I'm going to get out of the starting blocks. There we go. Well done. By the way, there is a verse in the Bible for those of you who are of the Christian proclivity that speaks about where two or more are gathered in my name, I am present. I just want to let you know that he's present. So you have just made a covenant. Now you have to see it through. Okay? I notice there's some of us standing at the back. Do you need me to use the mic or can you hear me? You need me to use the mic? So you heard me say you need me to use the mic? Okay, if you insist. Is this better?
So I was going through his bio and getting to know him more. First and foremost, he's a serial entrepreneur, a global speaker that actually his career started taking shape from the age of 17. That's so impressive. And above all, he's regarded as one of the most disruptive forces in the venture capital in Africa. He's the best-selling author, but my most favorite is a family man. Ask him his first question, how is he able to balance all that and being a family man? So that is Vose Thembekwayo. And you have the best audience, the best entrepreneurs from Tanzania. You're welcome.
Thank you, Vanessa. We have a management meeting at the office that's actually happening today, and I was supposed to be at the meeting, and I said to them, well, you guys have the meeting without me, because I'm not going into Tanzania and not speaking with entrepreneurs. It's for me, this conversation is my lifeblood. It's literally how I get inspiration. It's sharing with you and you sharing with me. And then they said, yeah, okay, so we'll do a masterclass. And they wouldn't come back to me with the details. They made one big mistake. Yeah? They forgot that I was meeting with the CEO of Vodacom. So in the evening, I met with him, and I said to him, Hisham, when is the masterclass? He says, what masterclass? I said, tell your people to tell your people to make sure that there's a masterclass. So that's how we all got here. Okay.
Maybe give you a sense of what I want to do next. I want 3 companies, must be running, to come and present to us their businesses. Okay, so Silindiwe from Velcom, and your business is?
Fresh Bator, but we have our first product called Poultry Box.
Say that again in English. Your business is what?
Fresh Bator. Fresh Bator.
Fresh but tall.
Yeah. No.
Oh. Fresh.
Just like abattoir, but you remove
Oh, fresh bator, like abattoir.
abattoir. Yeah.
Oh. Good job.
Nothing.
Good. So what do you make?
Oh, it's beetroot, and we put in sugar, vinegar, then we cook it, then we package it.
Why? Somebody said this to me actually. Who was it? It was Damien, a friend of mine. We did our MBA together. And Damien said something to me, blew my mind away. I'm telling him about this problem. I'm like, Damien, and this. He says, oh, mate, you're making a classical error there, mate. Oh, mate. I said, what's the classical error? He says, oh, you're assuming that the reason you're fixing the problem is the reason people want to buy. Wait, say that again? The reason you're doing something is not the reason the person pays you to do the thing you're doing. A soccer player plays soccer because he loves it. We watch because we want to see him score. A fighter gets in the cage because he loves it. We watch because we want to see somebody bleed. Lewis Hamilton gets in that car because he genuinely loves Formula One driving. We watch because we love competition and rivalry. Yeah? If it wasn't Lewis Hamilton, we'd be into somebody else. So you always got to remember as an entrepreneur, when you fix a problem, you got to ask yourself, the reason I'm doing this, is it the reason that they're going to buy? The reason that's important is because your entire communication strategy is built on it. The people who live at the base of pyramid have a set of competing interests and values. Yeah, you study Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you could probably overlay it onto this. But the people at the base of the pyramid have a certain series of priorities. If the problem you're solving is not a priority, they're not going to do it. So the first time entrepreneur goes, I have made these pens. These pens are made from ecologically friendly plastic. What is that? I'm not sure. But the brochure from the company in Finland that makes them said it's ecologically friendly plastic. They use a water base, which means that you can remove the ink. They leave no trail of themselves in the world. These pens are fantastic. And then the person sitting in a government department says, so, Kostiana? So you went and designed your whole website, and your page was about how amazing this pen is. The first thing the guy goes is cost. The reason you sell is not the reason they buy. So you got to get close to your customer. Give you guys a tiny little secret. Here's how you succeed. Always be the good guy. So customer comes and says, you know, I really want to buy and I don't have the budget. You go, you know what I do? I go, I don't want, I'll talk to my sales team. I'll sort it out for you. Then I go to the sales team. Sales team, he wants to buy. Make sure he pays the full amount. Watch, guys. Just watch this. I'm going to show you guys something. The minute I understood this, it changed my life. This is cradle. This is grave. Like the life of a human being. You're born and you die. Yeah? You create and you consume. This is usually where you find the retail market. This is where Mr. and Mrs. go and buy. I will buy that from you here. Okay. In almost every market, this thing looks like this. Few people here and a whole lot of people here. You will almost always start here. All of us do. But what you got to do is you got to figure out a way to invest up. Yeah? And then once you perfect this, you got to figure out a way to invest up. Which is why, guys, and I'm going to say something I'm sure is going to upset someone in the room. Which is why we have to stop calling our companies holdings. If you're a holdings company with a series of services companies, that's fine. But if you have a functional business that does a thing, you can't hold things. You must operate things. Then 1 month you're doing like a, I don't know, school feeding scheme. Another month you're supplying bedspreads to a hospital. It's also easy to spot because you call your business something General Holdings. I love holdings. What are you holding? South Africa is funny for me. We start where the world ends. You know the world ends there, right? Like when Jack Ma created Alibaba, when, I don't know, Jobs created Apple, when Zuckerberg created Facebook, and these are just the ones that come top of mind. But even if you study guys like Grant Cardone, Tim Ferriss, even here in South Africa, if you study real scale entrepreneurs, you look at Ivan Salzman who built Dis-Chem, they never start with group or holdings. That's how you can tell a real entrepreneur. He knows what he does. Multi-group, you have Pokol clue what you're doing. So we are group. So in the young kid. We call it Noma Yin. Noma Yin. Noma Yin. The answer to every question is yes. Yeah, when they phone, do you supply printing paper? Yeah, no, printing paper, I mean, I print the printing papers, yes. You are in all the databases. You make sure your tax clearance is up to date. Like, it's fun, you're experimenting. But the truth is, your CV is up to date as well. They're like this, you're chola, but you shut it. Yeah?
An interesting question, by the way. When you approach VC funds, you've got to know what are they good at? What stage of investment are they good at? Because some guys are phenomenal at startup. I am terrible at startup. I don't have the patience for startups. I will smack you for not seeing stuff. I was like, just do it. But what I am great at is a growth business. When you got 2 or 3 customers, you want to get to 30 customers, that's my game. That I'm good at that, right? At a conceptualization, I have an idea, I'm starting up stage, I don't have the patience for it. Yeah? My wife says to me, we have 3 kids, my wife and I. My wife will tell you that she has 4 kids because I'm one of them. And the reason she says that is because I don't see my kids as kids, I want to play with them. Yeah? To me, I'm like, I want to have fun with it. So that's kind of the same mindset I have for startups. I can't get to a point where there is something about which we can have a meaty conversation, then I'm happy to get in. Then I'm happy to help. Then I'm happy to just take it to the next direction, right? I'll tell you actually why I started doing the masterclasses is because I really think that money in the entrepreneurship ecosystem in the continent of Africa goes to the wrong places. We spend more money booking really fancy events, having amazing decor, screens, pay speakers a lot of money, and that money would probably be better used and have a higher multiplier if we pulled it out of pulling events and actually put it into the entrepreneurs. And so what really inhibits our ability to create fast-growing entrepreneurship ecosystems is that rather than think as a whole of 1 billion entrepreneurs, we think of ourselves as small little countries of a couple of million people. And then our middle class in each of our countries is not big enough to sustain all of us as entrepreneurs. Guys, the power of the US, which is now the power of China, is the size of its middle class. It's 300 million people in the US, 200 million of them are middle class. Which means if you create a product, a phone, a computer, a watch, a ring, a shirt, you have a potential market of 200 million people. That's almost collectively the buying power of all of the middle class of all of our continent. So what all of us should be lobbying for, rather than our own individual interests in our own individual countries, we should all be lobbying for the ability to be able to work together.
The difficulty often is finding people your business can afford. Yeah. But if I've got to trust the system in the iteration, I've got to, okay, so I tried that, that doesn't work. The philosophy wasn't wrong. I got the people wrong. Okay, so let me change people, but the philosophy is the same. And this thing, guys, is as dynamic as the energy circulation board at ESCOM. It's up and down all the time. Sometimes you're going to go hit straight load shedding on human capital. So the thing about when you set it up is as you recognize where your levers of strength are, you've also got to know where you're weak. And you've got to know where to push the button at just the right time. There's an amazing poet called J. Ivy who says, never worry about being misunderstood because it's not you who lacks the frequency of understanding. South Africans are fantastic at this. We will only recognize you when the world does. Apartheid didn't lose. Apartheid won. The project of apartheid was convincing black people that none amongst them was good enough. Like, I'm sorry, who gave you the SABS unit standard to tell us what blackness was? Is blackness a lived experience or is it a worldview? When you succeed as a black person, trust me, you don't need white people. Black people will remind you plenty that you've succeeded. We'll find you, we'll fetch you. They call it fetching. I will fetch you. You know the most fascinating thing is to watch people don't understand you, judge you, ridicule, and then all of a sudden become advocates. And in the whole process, all you've done is you stayed true and constant to you. If you want to be understood, this journey is not for you.
Any questions?
So I wanted to know, on your opinion, what are the top 5 big no-nos when it comes to raising funds?
I think one of the major errors entrepreneurs make is you guys raise too early. And and the reason you raise too early is because you want somebody to pay you to follow your dreams. Look, if you have an idea, that's your idea. Would you agree? Do you think I have ideas? Yeah, so why would I take my money to fund yours? Why don't I fund mine?
So here's what private equity companies do. They say to you, I'm going to give you 100 million because you need it for growth. What they do is when they raise, they have to pay the money back. Because how the ecosystem works is they have people who they raise from, called LPs. They manage the money. They're called GPs. They invest in you. You're called an investee company. The LPs are usually people like PIC, Public Investment Corporation. You guys, I don't know if you're seeing this whole IoT technologies thing now, but so what happens is you raise the money from a PIC. PIC's money is yours and my parents' money. It's pension money, which means at some point our parents must retire. When they retire, the money must be back, right? So when you raise, typically, you get the money for 7 to 10 years, which means the money must be paid back. But it must be paid back having earned a premium, which means your investments must generate this thing called an IRR, an internal rate of return. And every single year, there's something called a hurdle rate, an IRR versus a WACC. A WACC, accountants will tell you, is a weighted average cost of capital. Basically, how much does it cost me to run the money, and how much can I make from running that money? This must be more than that. Yeah? So the WACC is my hurdle rate. It's like the minimum costs I must jump above. Don't ever let accountants fool you with big talk. You can explain it in like a sentence. Basically, I give you 1 rand. If I want it back as 1 rand 10 cents, then your cost of capital is 10%. Which means when I give you 1 rand, you better make 1 rand 20 so that you have a 10-cent spread. My thesis is simple. So another question you're asking is, do I go to these guys? Well, these guys have to generate an IRR. The minute they invest in you, every single year they do something called a cash sweep. Every year they're going to draw down money in your business and take it out as cash, whether you have it or you don't, until they pay back the investment. Yeah, so private equity is not a place you go to grow. It's not.
Otherwise, what happens is entrepreneurs are raising money to iterate a business model until they find the business model that works. I'm sorry, if you need money to iterate a business model until you find a business model that works, you are not an entrepreneur. You're a well-paid manager who works for themselves and has the illusion of entrepreneurship. You want to post Instagram videos for likes and comments. In my books, how you earn being an entrepreneur, sleepless nights, no money in the bank, no food in the fridge, no friends, no disposable income, no credit, and you're still doing it anyway.
Working hard is like really cool, really romantic, but it's also a lie. Like there is a difference between working hard and enslaving yourself. I know it because I've done it. I've actually suffered a burnout before, so I know what I'm talking about. Take your day and write down all the activities you do from 8 to 9, 9 to 10, and watch the stuff you're doing and ask yourself which of these is high value and decision point. It's a low value, no decision point activity. High value, decision point. High value, decision point.
Do any of you here have crucibles? Who practices crucibles? No one? No? And the format of the diary goes the following, yeah? At the beginning of the month, where were you? In the month, what did you find? During the month, what did you fix? And at the end of the month, where are you now? And then at the end of it, you've got to make 3 commitments to yourself. It follows exactly that format. The reason it's called crucibles is because it allows you, to your point, to keep the story consistent about what you're doing. And sometimes, as often happens at the end of a year, you go back 12 months and you go, wow, we've done a lot. So when I say, are you failing? The question should be, I'm learning.
Just to recap, what is the problem? Make the problem urgent. What is the cost of not solving that problem? Why are you the best person to solve that problem? Guys, it's about credibility. So this is qualifications, accreditations, any of that stuff. You've got to make clear why you're the best person to solve that problem. A lot of people do it in their about page on the website. I put it on home. Home is where I got to know all about you, man. When I land on your website, that's what I've got to find out. That's why the conversation about social media is important, because guess what? When I follow your social media feed, you've got to be communicating the thing that's connected to the problem that shows me why you're the expert. Make sense? Yeah? So you got to go through all of this, and then at the end, you have to give the person the so what. And this is, what is the action I want you to take? Salespeople, naturally, they start a conversation with this thing in mind. Uma ngikushela. Then I don't ask for your numbers. It's called flattery. Yeah? If I ask for your numbers at the end, it's called ukushela. Yeah, so at the end of it, there's got to be an action item. Go to the My Growth Fund website. We've got 3 action points. Literally, as you're reading past the website, it says, if you're interested in this, click here. When you're involved in the conversation with a customer, potential client, there must be a so what. Okay, so we've met. I've told you about this. At the end of this meeting, these are the things I'm hoping are going to come out of it. I need X, Y, and Z. Can you do X, Y, and Z for me? And you've got to get the person to commit in the meeting. So I hope you guys have learned a bit about presentation. For free, I'm going to give you this final piece of advice on presenting. 7 minutes. That's all you get. 7 minutes, the first 7 minutes of any meeting is the only time you're going to get to communicate the reason to believe you, and the reason to buy. You have 7 minutes. If you can't communicate it in the first 7 minutes, usually the rest of the meeting is people just being polite. So now what you've got to figure out is, what is your leave behind? So when you go into the meeting, you need a leave behind. The leave behind is a document that you leave with them, something you leave on their table. Your competitors don't leave the same thing. You leave it there, and every single time in your absence, that leave behind is a document that speaks for you. Yeah? A leave behind should always be A4, one A4 document. It summarizes everything. In a leave behind, you communicate value, don't communicate product. In your absence, it speaks for you. So by the time they call you back, now what you know is you've qualified the sale because you've got a customer that's willing to buy. Yeah? You know that they're interested and they understand the value. Now it's not a price conversation. For those of you who follow, you would have seen recently we started taking all my keynotes and we're breaking them up into 60-second bits and we're posting all of them on YouTube. Because I realized something. I get booked on YouTube, I don't get booked when they call the office. By the time they call the office, the sale is done. So why don't I serve them as much of the information as possible? The CEO who makes the decision doesn't have more than 60 seconds to watch something. So the HR manager goes, just watch here, watch what he says here. It's on the phone, it's like, watch. And then the CEO is like, wait, watch here, watch. So it's like, okay, get him. CEOs make strategy decisions, they don't make tactical decisions. So when a CEO sees the work I do, he goes, strategically, this guy's worth whatever he charges. Pay him. When the time gets to CFO, it doesn't matter now. Just process the check, chief, please. No, but the budget, process the check. Okay?